Everyone thinks the 2026 midterms are about red versus blue. Well, they're not. They're about your bank account. Because while voters argue over politics, the real battle is over who writes America's digital currency laws. And if you miss what's happening in Florida's 25th, you could miss one of the biggest wealth shifts in history. And for 32 years, Debbie Wasserman Schultz has represented parts of South Florida as a Democrat in Congress. 32 years. That's longer than some of you watching have even been alive. She's voted for bigger government, sound familiar? Higher taxes, and policies that critics say erode economic freedom. But the bigger issue isn't just politics. It's that during those decades, the entire global economy has changed, and she hasn't. She hasn't kept up with it. Meanwhile, a new challenger has stepped into the ring, Michael Carbonara. And here's where things get really interesting, because Carbonara isn't a traditional politician. He's a fintech entrepreneur who's been building payment systems since 2011. He founded a company called Ibanara in 2020. And most recently, he even launched a genetic mapping startup. This is someone who understands modern business, technology, and finance at a level most members of Congress simply don't understand. So let me ask you this. Who do you trust more to protect your financial future? A career politician from the 90s or an entrepreneur who spent the last decade building the financial infrastructure of tomorrow? Now drop your thoughts in the comments because I genuinely want to know. Now, this isn't just another political race. This is about the future of American financial policy and, frankly, your ability to protect and grow your wealth in an increasingly unstable economy. Look, here's what most people don't understand about this race. While career politicians have been playing politics for 3 decades, the global economy has fundamentally changed. We're talking about blockchain technology, DeFi stable coins, and cross-border payments that are reshaping how money moves around the world. Carbonara gets it. This guy understands the modern business world in ways that most members of Congress, well, they simply don't. But here's the kicker, and where it gets critical for your portfolio. Carbonara has come out in support of something called the Genius Act. It's legislation backed by Trump that would establish a US-backed global digital currency. Think about that for a moment. If you could move US dollars around the world instantly, boom, just like that, securely, and at near zero costs through stable coins, what would that do to the value of the dollar? Well, for one, it would reinforce the dollar's dominance just as other countries are trying to undermine it. But more importantly, for you as an investor, it would make American assets, real estate, businesses, hard assets, far more attractive to international investors. Translation: upward pressure on prices. That means your home, your land, your tangible assets could appreciate even faster if the dollar becomes the global digital standard. But there's always a problem, right? And here it is. If career politicians like Wasserman Schultz continue to control financial policy, there's a risk that they're just going to ignore, or worse, actively fight against this digital transition. Remember, these are some people who would argue over outdated regulatory frameworks, while China and other nations, well, they're racing to establish digital currencies of their own. Do you really think politicians who don't understand blockchain should be making the rules for it? Of course not. Let me know in the comments. Would you hand your portfolio over to somebody who doesn't even know how money moves in 2025? Debbie Wasserman Schultz has been in office since 1992. That's 32 years of the same thinking, the same policies, and frankly, the same failure to understand how modern finance actually works. While Carbonara was building payment systems and fintech companies, while he was doing that, Wasserman Schultz was voting for higher taxes, bigger government, and policies that erode economic freedoms. She's a career politician who's never had to meet a payroll or understand what it takes to actually create wealth in the private sector. Carbonara himself puts it simply. He says, with technology, especially blockchain, the world economy is changing at rapid levels. And he's absolutely right. Cross-border payments are no longer slow, expensive, or limited. They're instantaneous. That means economies are now completely interconnected, and financial policy has to adapt to that. If America fails to lead in this space, your investments, my investments could suffer. Your dollars could lose global power. and your wealth could slowly erode under outdated policies. But if America does lead, we could be looking at one of the greatest wealth protection opportunities in decades. And this race isn't just about technology, it's about values. Carbonara's wife and in-laws, they fled communist Cuba. His wife's grandfather spent 23 years in a political prison under Castro's regime. This is a family that understand what happens. They understand what happens when governments grow too big. They understand what happens when personal freedoms are stripped away. That experience informs how he sees financial freedom, not just as abstract policy idea, but as something you protect to avoid repeating history. So ask yourself this: who's more likely to defend your right to hold, invest, and grow wealth freely? Someone who lived through the failures of socialism, or someone who's been inside Washington's political machine for 3 decades? Now, let's zoom out for a moment. Florida's 25th district is about to become one of the hottest battlegrounds in 2026. Why? Because redistricting is coming. Governor DeSantis and the state legislature are planning to redraw boundaries before the midterms. Now that could tilt the district away from its Democratic strongholds in Broward County and include more Republican-leaning parts of Miami-Dade. Now, in the last election, Kamala Harris barely carried this district with 52% of the vote, while Trump, well, he pulled in nearly 47%. Now, that's a razor-thin margin compared to past years. This district is shifting, and Carbonara isn't waiting for perfect conditions. He filed to run months before redistricting hit the headlines, before it even started. He's not reaching. You see, the guy's preparing. And that's exactly the kind of thinking that you would want in someone facing and shaping financial policies. Someone who sees the change coming and positions early. So here's what's at stake for you. If entrepreneurs like Carbonara gain influence in Congress, well, there's a real chance America could modernize financial policy to match today's economy. It means protecting the dollar's global dominance, encouraging innovation, supporting policies that keep your wealth. Don't let it go. But if the same politicians who've been in office since '92 keep writing the rules, the risk is stagnation, bad regulation, policies that weaken America's financial position. So the question really does become simple. Do you want to protect wealth in the 21st century, or do you want to gamble it on politicians from the 20th century? Look, I don't care what your political affiliations are. I really don't. What I care about is your and my financial future. And the reality is this: we need people in Congress who understand how modern finance actually works. Whether Carbonara wins or loses, whether redistricting happens or it doesn't, you can't afford to keep all your wealth in assets that politicians can manipulate with the stroke of a pen. The solution is simple but very powerful: diversification. Diversify investments away from corrupt, exposed public assets. The ones like stocks, 401ks. Maybe move into private assets like self-directed retirement account and private real estate investments. Taking back control. Think about it. Politicians can crash the stock market with bad policy. They can devalue your 401k through inflation, and they can't print any more land, can they? They can't regulate away from the demand for housing. They can't tax away the cash flow from well-positioned real estate. While everyone else is hoping politicians make the right decisions, smart investors, well, they're taking control by moving their wealth into assets that politicians can't touch. Hands off. Get your hands out of my pockets. Now, if you want to learn more about what your best financial move could be right now and how to protect that wealth, regardless of who wins in 2026, click the video right here. It's either there or there, not sure where, but click the video anyway. I'll show you exactly how to diversify out of vulnerable public assets into private real estate investments. These are the ones that generate cash flow and appreciate in value no matter what happens in Washington. Look, don't wait for the next election to secure your financial future. The time to act is right now, while you still can. For Legacy Alliance, I'm Dave Seymour. And remember, politicians lie, but real estate never does.